There is a species here on this planet. They live here, yes, and they walk amongst us. I'm going to share with you what's going on with that. Also, what's going to happen in 1 year, less than a year actually, that has been predicted by Chris Bledsoe, who has been predicting some things, not as himself or a channeler, but from other beings. Yes, other beings that are here. I'm going to share something with you that you need to know, because we have to get our house in order, and you need to know what's going on out there so that you can go into a state of peace, not fear. Yes, that's the key to our future. Let's do it. Welcome to Landria, Onkka on YouTube, here to help you break through those fears and live an amazing life. I'm relaunching the Breakthrough Fear whole platform. It's my self-improvement, my spiritual teachings. Let's go ahead and say spiritual. We must go into an awakened state first before we go into empowerment and self-mastery. We can use this power that you hold that we're going to talk about right now. Now, we're going to talk about this next year coming up. And it's so important to get your house in order, to go into that awakened state. Well, what does that mean? Awakening, am I going to be like Eckhart Tolle or the Dalai Lama? No, awakening just means consciousness. If you focus on what we're going to talk about today, you can go into a conscious state, and next year, when something amazing is going to happen, I'll explain in a moment, you will be able to participate in it, because you're going to see it as something non-threatening, that's beautiful, has always existed, but we as human beings have been so unconscious and limited in our beliefs and thinking. We believe that things are a certain way. We like to separate things, right, wrong, good, bad. Where's that line? There isn't one. So I'm going to ask you to subscribe. It keeps my channel in the good graces of YouTube, of positive messages. No conspiracies here, but we do talk about current events and things going on out there that we must be aware of. One is starting with misinformation. I'm going to share something with you right now that is a little bit frightening, but give me a moment here and it won't be. There is a species on this planet. They are malevolent. They do not place others first. They are actually very self-serving. They're destructive, and they are in separation. They don't trust each other, much less anything else. They have no compassion for anything else. Now, that's not all of them, but the thing is they're here. They're not from another planet. They are here, and they always have been. So you probably know which species I'm talking about. Humans. Yes, it's us. Can you imagine being any other life form coming here, and they're just supposed to pop in and help us when we won't even treat each other with peace and love? We haven't earned it yet. And so there will be an opening next year that's going to allow us to either accept what we truly are and get out of this self-protecting, self-serving, egotistical, unconscious way of behaving, or we remain in the material world and we fight for it. And of course, we're all going to leave here. So wouldn't you rather go into a space that's going to take you up the elevator to the penthouse and beyond? And when you leave here, it's going to be a beautiful, different game that you go off to. And that's what we're in. Now, you can call it a simulation, an illusion, whatever it is. It is definitely an illusion of some kind, because as one, we are all things, and there are beings here right now in this room, out there in every way, shape, or form that are 3, 4, 5-dimensional. They're in endless dimensions. There's no limitation to dimensions. They are in every possible form of intelligence and consciousness. Now, we don't recognize that because we look at a material world, and if it's anything other than that, we're frightened of it. We've been told to be frightened of it. Why? It holds great power. And those of the material world who are on a low density want us to be afraid of that world. Because if we were to invite it in, and we were on a high frequency, not fear, fear invites other things. If we were on a high frequency, there'd be no limits to what we could do. Without weapons, without any kind of protection needed in the material world, we could actually, with our own hand, control things on a high level and end all conflict. Now, everything is free will. If you've heard of Chris Bledsoe, he was just interviewed on News Nation with Ross Coulthard. I actually watched the News Nation, just Ross Coulthard. I don't watch any other shows on there, interviews. He takes us into some spaces that are a little out there, but he picks and chooses who he interviews. And he decided that Chris Bledsoe was one that he wanted to talk to. Now, Chris is very controversial. He got abducted about 18 years ago. He was at his lowest point. He was a construction owner. He owned a beautiful company. He had $1 million home and a pool and a plane and all these other great things. And 9/11 hit and the entire industry collapsed. And he ends up in a trailer home with these 4 kids. And the trailer home didn't even have a decent floor on it, much less kitchen cabinets, and he was getting food stamps. Big switch, and he was at his lowest point. Well, he had a job lined up, and he took about 5 other people with him. His son was one of them. After they completed the job, they had their check, and they were all excited to have any kind of money, and so they decided to go fishing. Of course, he went along with this, but he was in no state to be celebrating anything. So he excused himself and went off into the woods while they were fishing and having fun, and they were going to build a fire. And so he was at his lowest point and at the brink of really not wanting to be here anymore. Not that he was going to do anything, but it was in his thoughts that there was no place else to go. There was no other place. Now, have you noticed that there is a correlation direct correlation between people that hit their lowest point and those who start to get messages and awakening? Eckhart Tolle is one. He was at his lowest point. He had suicidal thoughts, and he went into a super awakened state, so much so that he was homeless and in euphoria for 2 years. Of course, we know what happened. He wrote his amazing books, The Power of Now and others, A New Earth, and he's a multimillionaire, but it doesn't matter to him. He is in just bliss without the money. He went beyond the material world that made him happy or sad, and we all can do that. Well, there's a letting go that happens when you have the dark night of the soul. He was out in the woods and he saw these orbs, these huge craft, glowing craft. There was 3 of them. One lowered, and he didn't remember anything other than going back to the fire. Well, he didn't realize it was 4 hours later, and they were all looking for him. They had no clue where he was. His son also disappeared, looking for his dad, but he actually experienced seeing little beings. You know, the little 3-foot ones, spindly little guys with the red eyes, can be real scary. And he was traumatized by that. They all loaded up in the truck. They went and found Chris Jr. and Chris Sr. and Chris Jr. along with the others, loaded up in the truck and got the heck out of there because they were seeing some things that were unexplainable. They saw these huge craft, 3 of them red glowing. I'm sorry if you can hear construction. They're getting ready for hurricane season here. So they all piled in. They actually left their fishing poles and everything. They pile in the car, and these things are actually blocking their way. But Chris gunned it and went past them, and they actually saw a farmhouse, and they pulled in to try and get help. And everything in the house was going, including the television, but no one was there. They get back in the car, and they go back to their homes. They get out of Dodge. Chris goes home with his son, and it continued onward from there. Beans were showing up in the backyard. Chris Jr., of course, was petrified, ended up running back in the house, and Chris was out there and came in contact with one of the beings that Chris Jr. had seen earlier and said, "I mean you no harm." We are here to help. Now, he has had nothing but non-stop anomalies showing up, orbs and beings, dark shadows walking through the house, and orbs in the house, and visitations, and it goes on and on. If you're interested, you can read his book, UFO of God. I got it. It's pretty interesting. One thing I want to share with you, and this is why we must get our house in order, is that Chris was shown some things, and he's talking more about it. When he got abducted, because they did put him back into a hypnotic state to explore what really happened, he went into this craft. They did not do any probing or any crazy stuff that was petrifying to him, but they took him out into the galaxies and beyond, and they showed him some things. They showed him the pyramids and the Sphinx. He doesn't know why, but he does remember that they went and visited this spot. They also showed him planet Earth and a huge solar flash, and planet Earth actually twisting and turning and flooding, and it wasn't good. Of course, we know that's probably inevitable, but what he wanted to share is he doesn't know if it was the future or the past, because we have gone through that before. This is not to frighten you, because he didn't see this happening next year or anytime soon. But he was shown these things that are starting to become clear of what they mean. He was visited by what he calls the Golden Lady, the Lady of Light, sort of like a Mother Mary kind of figure. She's amazingly beautiful, and she's shown up and told him some things. One of the things that she shared with him is that in 2026, around April, she shows up right around Easter every year and talks to him, that when the red star Regulus shows up at dawn and aligns with the Sphinx, there will be a new era, a new knowledge, a feminine one. What does that mean? Well, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, he has seen some things and been told a few things, and one of the things he was told about 15 years ago is that when Iran and Iraq start to exchange missiles, orbs will appear to interfere with it. Okay? They're going to step in. He told this to many people, including a lot of government officials who are fascinated with him, because he can call in these orbs every night and people see them every single night. Stuff is happening in his house. His family has witnessed all of this. This isn't just him. He is somehow attracting this, and I think he is just a messenger of light for all of us to know that there's so much more that we don't recognize that we also are and we can communicate with, that will assist us in not destroying our own planet. You see, the planet's being destroyed. Well, who's doing it? We're doing it. We can stop it. We don't need them to tell us. But how do we end the ego-driven damage that's going on? Well, we're going to talk about that in a moment. So when those missiles were fired off, that did happen, of course, not too long ago, the orbs did show up and they did interfere. There have been a lot of videos of this. I've actually seen some. I don't believe that they're faked, although there's a lot out there that is. And so he shared in this interview, you might want to go see it, that after that we would see more of them showing up. Well, the U.S. government is aware of this, and Chris states, this is his statement, that the drones that showed up last year, this whole drone thing, was actually U.S. government drones. However, and Ross Coulthard pointed this out, not all of them were, because people saw things that were definitely not drones. However, yes, orbs and other entities, non-human intelligence forms, were showing up also. Why are they doing this? Because they're slowly edging themselves into a world with a species that is violent, us. They can't just show up. We shoot them down. We do this now. We want the craft. We don't care what happens to any beings inside the craft. We don't release them and let them go. They're like, we treat them like animals, and we're not respectful for our own animals, much less one another. Why would they just show up? They're slowly acclimating us to who and what they are, so that eventually, and we're realizing now, we don't need disclosure from an organization, an institution that lies about it because they want to control, because God forbid if we knew there was something else out there more powerful, the U.S. government would believe that perhaps they're losing their control. I don't know what their intentions are, other than they're always in fear that they're not the top dog. So they send out these drones supposedly, and all these other things are showing up. So now they can claim it was us. Well, the truth is, we have no control over these powers that are so much more advanced that there's nothing we can do about it. They are not malevolent, because if they were, we wouldn't be here. They are stepping in and helping us. And yes, there are some that are not our best friends, and rightly so. If I was out there and I looked at what was going on, I wouldn't like us either. I wouldn't exactly want to be friends with us, would you? So what we are looking at now is a new era that is going to come in April. And when that red star Regulus arises at dawn over the Sphinx, and by the way, Chris, when he was told this, had no clue what it meant. He'd never heard of the red star Regulus, which is actually a blue star. It's going to appear red next year. He checked this out, and sure enough, not only does it exist, it will align with the Sphinx next April 2026, and he had no clue about this. He wanted to do some research first and come up with this stuff. The new knowledge that's going to show up, he doesn't know what it is. It's not a cataclysmic event. It's not a world war. It's not something to fear. It is actually a new era of knowledge that is of peace and love, and there will be a knowledge that's going to change our lives, because we'll realize who and what we are. There will be many that argue and fight that. They're already doing it. If you've seen my videos on misinformation, they're already trying to claim certain stories after they've been lying forever. Now we're supposed to believe the new stories, and of course more false stories are coming out that claim our power instead of the power of these entities that are showing up, letting us know they're here. And I believe next year they're really going to let us know not only that they're here, but that we are part of that huge, unlimited, intelligent quantum field that has access and power over everything. In other words, not somebody else's free will, but your ability to have anything in your life you desire, but on a higher frequency. It will always place others first. So abundance will include others. Health will include others. We will be giving and loving. People will lack for nothing. And if you get your house in order now and you go into that state of awakening and realize everyone is perfect and special, they're just making decisions that maybe aren't so cool. All right, just had an interruption. The pest control came by. Of course, I don't let them spray chemicals in my house. What is the conclusion to this? We must go into a state of oneness. It is not going to be easy for you. You're going to get caught up in the misinformation because it's fascinating. I watch some of this stuff too, and I think it's hysterical. The Wall Street Journal article is hysterical. It's being controlled by the government, the Pentagon. It's being controlled by all those who feel like they're losing their control because they believe it is money and power that they will not gain if we go into a state of awakening, the golden era. I believe we are starting the golden era now. I've been talking about this. Many people are already going into it, right? Well, guess what? It is still a choice. So get ready, get your house in order. When's the last time I said this? I said it just before our COVID incident situation. I shared with you that something huge and global was coming. You guys have seen that video, right? That was months before all of that kicked in. I said, I don't know what it is, but it's going to be huge, and you need to get your house in order because you want to be ready when it happens. In other words, get rid of the crap, get rid of this negative thinking, get things in order, make sure that you are ready for whatever happens out there and not to go in fear. And the same thing's going to happen here because what's happening, unlike that situation, which pushed us to a new era, so as traumatic as it was, it had divine purpose in many ways because none of us actually die anyways. But the new era that's coming next year is the total opposite of that. It's going to push us in a direction that we still get to choose of awakening, enlightenment, of total change. In other words, we realize how precious life is, and if we don't take care of one another and mostly our planet, that life as we know it will end, and it hasn't been very pleasant, and we're tired of living this way. We're tired of the lies. No more lies. So just so you know, those of you who, you get very upset because I say do everything in peace and we need to protest. I'm not telling you to tolerate anything. In fact, I have a no tolerance zone. We're going to talk more about that. What does that mean? It doesn't mean protesting in violence. It means taking action in peace. So if I'm going to protest what's in place right now, do you think for a minute I'm going to really make any headway? Not much. We never really have. What's the alternative? Let's create a society that works and focus on that and participate in it. It's like I always say, fast food places, if nobody goes, they're out of business. And that's how this works. Are you ready for this? It's going to be beautiful. We're going to talk more and more how you can do this. If you guys want my free inspiration, I'm going to launch the stages of awakening, and then self-empowerment, and then self-mastery. We're going to take you through these stages. I will have master classes, all kinds of free stuff. I have a free video in there to talk about breakthrough fear and how that works. How do you break past fear? How do you break through it in a world that can be very frightening? We have to change the story. That's the first thing. I'm going to talk about all these amazing things. I'm so excited, and it's going to challenge us, and we will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes and say, what the heck am I doing here? But you chose it, and I did too, so we have to do our job. Are you ready for that? All of you who are entrepreneurs, I just want to remind you that digitalexplorers.net is creating planet conscious businesses. Are you ready to launch something? Get skills online, not the kind that are going to put you out of business, but the kind that will empower you. Reach global audiences with positive messages, coaching, change platforms out there, teaching and training, and be a creator. There's nothing you can't do. I teach you how to do it. I teach you live. We have coaching, and it's an online course. What's the result? You learn how to be a business owner. You have a real business plan, a real business. We launch it, okay? If you're interested, it's unlike any other business training out there. If you want an online business, one that could be truly successful, I can't create your success. I can only lead you to it. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is happening. And if you want to participate in the new world, you could be a digital explorer. Our meetings are amazing. It's like a family. There's nothing you can't talk about in our business meetings. It's a beautiful, wonderful world if you welcome it in. But if it comes to you and you say no, that will be your choice, and I can't do anything about that. You're whole and perfect, strong and powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Blessings to you, my friend. Namaste.